I'll never forget the sound of her voice that night. I just walked through the door, grease still under my nails from tweaking a '67 Mustang at the shop, when Mia hit me with it. "Evan, I want an open marriage." My stomach dropped, like someone had yanked the floor out from under me. 34 years old, married 7, and suddenly I wasn't enough. She sat there on our faded blue couch, legs crossed, picking at her nails like it was no big deal. "It's not about you," she said. "I just need to explore." Explore? Was I a dead-end road? I stood there, keys dangling in my hand, feeling smaller than I ever had. I've always been the guy who fixes things. Carburetors, leaky faucets, even our rocky patches, but this felt like she'd handed me a wrench for a job I couldn't touch. Sadness hit first, heavy and cold, followed by this gnawing sense of worthlessness. Was I boring? Too predictable? I thought of every late night I'd spent in the garage, every time I'd chosen a torque wrench over a bar stool, and wondered if that's why she was pulling away. My throat tightened, but I just nodded. "Okay." I mumbled, because what else do you say when your wife says you're not cutting it? But then she smiled, like I'd agreed too fast, and that's when the doubt crept in. She grabbed her phone, already texting someone, and brushed past me to get some air. I watched her go, her ponytail swinging, and realized I didn't even know who I was jealous of yet. The Mustang sat half-finished in the garage, and I thought, maybe I can fix that instead. But as the door clicked shut behind her, a sharper question stabbed me. What was she really after? I spent that night on the couch, staring at the ceiling, replaying her words. Open marriage. It sounded like a trap, like I was signing off on my own replacement. I'm no saint. Sure, I've noticed women at the shop, flirty customers dropping off their sedans, but I never acted on it. Mia was my constant, my anchor. Now she wanted to drift, and I was supposed to just nod along. My chest ached with this quiet, pathetic grief, like I'd already lost her. I kept picturing her laughing with some faceless guy, and every time, I felt less like a man. The next morning, she cornered me over coffee. "Have you thought about it?" she pressed, her hazel eyes bright, almost daring me to say no. I wanted to scream, "Why am I not enough?" But I didn't. I'm a mechanic. Logic's my thing. So I tried reasoning instead. "We need rules," I said, voice shaky. "No lies, no sneaking." She rolled her eyes, sipping her mug. "Evan, don't overthink it. It's just freedom. Freedom, right? For her, maybe. For me, it felt like a slow bleed. But I caved. I don't know why. Maybe I thought agreeing would prove I wasn't the dull husband she was running from. "Fine," I said, and she clapped like a kid who'd won a prize. My self-esteem was in the gutter, scraping bottom, but I forced a smile. She hugged me, quick and light, then bolted to meet a friend. I sat there, coffee going cold, wondering how I'd let her talk me into this. The garage called. I had a transmission to rebuild, but all I could think was she's already gone. Then the phone rang. Lauren, Mia's best friend, chirpy as ever. "Hey, Evan. Mia said you're cool with everything. Want to grab a drink tonight?" My gut twisted. Mia had told her? Already? I almost said no, but something, curiosity, maybe defiance, made me agree. As I hung up, I caught my reflection in the window. Slumped shoulders, tired eyes. Pathetic, I thought, but a tiny spark flickered. What if I played this game too? Lauren was waiting at Rusty's pub, all blonde curls and dimples, waving me over like we were old pals. I slid into the booth, still feeling like a fraud. Mia was out there exploring, and here I was, sipping a beer with her best friend because... what? I didn't even know. My hands fidgeted with the coaster, tearing it to shreds. I kept thinking, she's only here because Mia told her I'm a pushover. The sadness hadn't left. It sat in my ribs, heavy as a spare tire. But now it was mixing with something else. Embarrassment. I wasn't the guy who chased women. I fixed engines. I stayed loyal. Lauren leaned in, grinning. "So, open marriage, huh?" Mia's been hyping it up. Her tone was teasing, but it stung. I shrugged, muttering, "Guess so." She didn't push, just started talking about her photography gig, her dog, random stuff. It was easy, too easy, and for a minute, I forgot to feel worthless. She laughed at my dumb joke about carburetors, and I caught myself smiling. I thought, maybe I'm not a total loser. But then my phone buzzed, Mia's text, "Home late." Don't wait up. The sadness surged back, sharper now. She was out there and I was here. Lauren noticed. You okay? She asked softer. I lied, said yeah, but she didn't buy it. Mia's lucky, she said. You're solid, Evan. Solid. Like a rock nobody wants. I didn't say that, just nodded. We kept talking. 2 beers turned into 3, and I started wondering what Mia was doing, who she was with. Therefore, I asked Lauren, casual as I could. She say anything about her plans? Lauren's smile faltered. Not really. Just she's been busy. Busy. That word stuck like grit in a piston. When I got home, Mia wasn't there, just her perfume lingering in the air. I crashed on the couch again, but this time I wasn't just sad. I was curious. Lauren's number glowed on my phone. I texted her, "Thanks for tonight." She replied fast, "Anytime." And as I stared at that word, a thought hit me. What if I stopped waiting? Mia stumbled in at 2 a.m., heels clicking, humming some tune I didn't know. I was awake, couldn't sleep after Lauren's anytime pinged my phone. The sadness was still there, a dull ache, but now it had company. Suspicion. Mia tossed her purse on the counter, barely glancing at me. Fun night, I asked, voice flat. She froze, then smirked. Just friends, Evan. You know the rules. Rules. Like she cared. I nodded, but my gut churned. She smelled like wine and something else, cologne, maybe. Not mine. The next day, I met Lauren again. Coffee this time, not beer. I didn't plan it. She texted, said she was nearby, and I said yes because why not? My self-esteem was still shaky, but talking to her felt like tightening a loose bolt, small but steadying. She wore this bright yellow scarf, chatting about a photo shoot, and I actually listened. Then I told her about Mia's late night. She's always been a night owl, Lauren said, but her eyes flicked away. Context clicked. Mia was hiding something. Conflict followed. I wanted to know what. That night, Mia grilled me. "Where were you today?" she asked, arms crossed. I almost laughed. Her asking me? "Coffee with Lauren," I said, casual. Her smirk vanished. "Lauren? Seriously?" Her voice climbed, sharp. "She's my friend, Evan." I shrugged. "So? You wanted this?" She stared, then stormed off, muttering about boundaries. Boundaries? From her? The irony burned, but it lit something in me too. I wasn't just the sad sap anymore. I was in this now. But then I saw it. Her phone, left on the table, buzzing like a trapped fly. I didn't touch it yet. My heart raced, palms sweaty. I'd never snooped before. Never had to. Therefore, I paced the kitchen, arguing with myself. Asterisk, she's out there breaking rules. Why shouldn't I look? Asterisk, the buzzing stopped, but the screen lit up. Miss you already. No name, just a number. My chest tightened, not with sadness this time, but with something hotter. Anger? Maybe. Or maybe the start of a plan? Mia barely spoke to me the next morning. Just grabbed her keys and left, saying she had errands. Errands? Sure. I sat there, coffee untouched, that miss you already text replaying in my head. The sadness was fading, replaced by this restless itch. I felt like a fool, like the guy everyone pities, but nobody warns. My shop buddies would have laughed. Evan, you let her do what? Self-esteem? Shot. But I wasn't crumbling anymore. I was awake. Lauren called that afternoon. Mia's freaking out about us, she said, half laughing. Keeps texting me to back off. I blinked. Back off? She wanted this. Lauren sighed. Yeah, well, she's not handling it. Context. Mia was fine with her freedom, but mine? That was a problem. Conflict. Her hypocrisy was choking me. I asked Lauren to meet again, dinner this time. She said yes, and when I hung up, I caught myself grinning. Not a big grin, but enough. Maybe I wasn't invisible. Dinner was good. Steak, fries, Lauren teasing me about my ketchup obsession. I felt lighter, like I could breathe. But then Mia started blowing up my phone. Where are you? Who are you with? I texted back. Out with Lauren, and she went silent. Too silent. When I got home, she was on the couch, glaring. You're doing this to spite me, she hissed. I laughed, actually laughed. You begged for this, Mia. She flinched, then snapped. Lauren's off limits. Off limits? After her burner phone? My anger flared, but I kept it cool. Not your call, I said. She stormed out again, tires squealing. I should have felt bad, but I didn't. Therefore, I grabbed her phone, still there, unlocked this time. Text flooded the screen. Can't wait to see you. Last night was amazing. Different numbers, different lies. My hands shook, not from sadness, but from clarity. She wasn't just exploring. She was rewriting our whole marriage. I scrolled, jaw tight, until Lauren texted me, "You okay?" I typed back, "Better now." And I meant it, because as Mia's secret spilled out, I realized something. I wasn't the pushover anymore. I was the one holding the wrench. I stood there in the kitchen, Mia's burner phone glowing in my hand like a live wire. Those texts, "Last night was amazing, meet me tomorrow," weren't flukes. They were patterned. My pulse hammered, not with the old sadness, but with this jagged, electric fury. I'd spent years tuning engines, spotting what's off by the smallest sound, and now I saw it. Mia wasn't just exploring. She was living a double life. I scrolled further, names replaced by initials. JKR, like some coded game I wasn't invited to play. My knees felt weak, but my grip tightened. I wasn't worthless anymore. I was pissed. The next day, I took her car to the shop, said it needed an oil change. She didn't blink, just tossed me the keys. Under the hood, I found more. A crumpled receipt from a motel an hour away, dated last week. Context slammed into conflict. She'd lied about girls' night that day. I'd stayed home, tweaking a carburetor, while she what? Met J.K. My stomach twisted, but I didn't stop. I popped the trunk. Nothing fancy, just routine. And there it was, a cheap flip phone, taped under the spare tire. Another burner. Unlocked. More texts. "You're my escape," one said. Escape? From me? I drove home, hands steady on the wheel, mind racing. Mia was out. "Errands again," she'd said. I sat in the garage, flipping through both phones, piecing it together. She wasn't begging for freedom. She'd already taken it. Therefore, I made a call. Not to her, but to Lauren. "Can you meet me?" I asked, voice low. She didn't hesitate. "On my way." As I waited, I stared at the Mustang, half restored, and thought, I've been fixing the wrong thing. The sadness was gone now, burned out by this new heat. I wasn't the guy who'd nodded at her ultimatum. I was the guy who'd caught her. And when Lauren's car pulled up, headlights cutting the dusk, I knew I wasn't alone in this anymore. Lauren sat across from me in the garage, the Mustang looming between us like a silent witness. I showed her the phones, both of them, screens lit with Mia's secrets. Her eyes widened, then narrowed. "She's been lying to everyone," she muttered, scrolling. I nodded, leaning against the workbench. "Yeah, and she's mad I'm seeing you." Lauren huffed a laugh, bitter. "She's got nerve." That's when I laid it out. Mia's late nights, the motel receipt, the texts. My voice stayed calm, but inside I was coiled tight. Not scared anymore. Ready. I waited for Mia that night. She breezed in at 11, hair messy, claiming she'd been catching up with a coworker. I didn't buy it, but I played along. "Good day," I asked casual. She shrugged, tossing her jacket. Then I dropped it. "Found your phone." The flip one. Her face froze, eyes darting to the counter where I'd left it. "That's not mine," she stammered. I held up the receipt next. "This either." She went pale, then pivoted, tears fast and loud. "Evan, I messed up. A few dates, that's all. Please, let's stop this open thing. I can't handle you with Lauren." I almost laughed. She couldn't handle it? After months of this? My confidence flickered. Not arrogance yet, but something close. "You begged for this," I said, echoing her old line. She grabbed my arm, pleading, but I saw through it. Context. She wasn't sorry, just scared I'd outplayed her. Conflict. I wasn't done digging. "Okay," I lied. "We'll pause." Her shoulders relaxed, but I didn't. Therefore, I kept the phones hidden, snapped photos of the texts, and started planning. She thought she'd won me back, but I was already 3 steps ahead. The next day, she acted normal. Coffee, kisses, "I love you." I smiled, nodded, but my mind was elsewhere. Lauren texted, "What's the move?" I replied, "Meet me tonight." As Mia hummed in the kitchen, oblivious, I slipped the burner phones into my toolbox. She thought this was over. But when I locked the garage door behind me, heading to meet Lauren, I knew it was just starting. She'd lied to the wrong guy. Lauren met me at a diner, neon buzzing overhead, her yellow scarf a splash of color against the grimy booth. I slid in, laid out the photos I'd taken of Mia's texts. She's been playing me for months, I said, voice steady now. Lauren frowned, flipping through them. She's been trash-talking you too, she admitted. Told some guy you're controlling. Said she needed space. Space. I'd given her a whole highway, and she'd spun it into this. My jaw tightened, but I didn't slump. I sat taller. The old Evan would have felt small. This Evan felt sharp. Lauren leaned forward, eyes locked on mine. I didn't know it was this bad. She's my friend, but this isn't right. Context shifted. Lauren wasn't just Mia's sidekick anymore. Conflict sparked. She was picking a side, mine. I like you, Evan, she said quiet. Not just as a rebound. My pulse jumped. I liked her too. Her laugh, her ease. But I hadn't let myself admit it. Not until now. Good, I said, testing my own nerve. Because I'm not stopping. We talked strategy. She knew Mia's habits. Where she went, who she saw. She's meeting someone tomorrow, Lauren said. Coffee shop on Elm. She thinks I'm covering for her. I grinned. Not a shy grin, a real one. Perfect. Therefore, we hatched a plan. I'd tail Mia, catch her in the act, build my case. Lauren's loyalty wasn't just a boost. It was a weapon. Mia had handed me her best friend, and I was turning the tables. Driving home, I felt it. Confidence solid as a rebuilt engine. Mia was asleep when I got in, sprawled across the bed like nothing was wrong. I didn't wake her, just watched detached. She'd built this mess, but I was dismantling it piece by piece. The next morning, she kissed me goodbye, all smiles, off to her coffee date. I waved, then grabbed my keys. Lauren's text buzzed. Ready? I typed back, let's do this. As I pulled out, following Mia's taillights, I wasn't the guy begging for answers anymore. I was the guy getting them. I trailed Mia to the coffee shop, keeping 2 cars back, my truck blending into the morning rush. She parked, checked her hair in the mirror, then walked in, smirking like she owned the place. I waited, engine idling, until Lauren texted, she's at a corner table. Guy in a gray hoodie. I slipped inside, cap low, and took a seat across the room. There she was, laughing, leaning into this scruffy dude like he was her whole world. My chest tightened. Not with pain, but with cold, clear focus. This wasn't about losing her anymore. It was about winning. I snapped photos with my phone, discreet, quick. Gray hoodie handed her a coffee, his hand lingering on hers. She didn't pull away. Context. She'd begged me to close our marriage yesterday. Conflict. Here she was, still playing. I texted Lauren the pics. Caught her. She replied, solid proof. What now? Now. I've been a fixer too long. Time to break something. I drove home, mind spinning, and started laying it out. Photos, texts, receipts. I had a stack of evidence thicker than a service manual. That night, Mia came back all sweet, claiming she'd run errands. I played along, kissed her cheek, said I'd missed her. She bought it, relaxed into the couch. But I wasn't done. Therefore, I accidentally left a photo on the counter. Me and Lauren at dinner, smiling. Mia found it an hour later. What's this? She snapped, holding it up. I shrugged. You wanted freedom, right? Her eyes flashed. Anger, not guilt. And she threw it down. This isn't funny, Evan. I smiled calm. Neither's your coffee date. She froze, caught, but recovered fast. You're paranoid, she said, storming off. I let her go, then hid the real evidence in my toolbox. Lauren called after. She's texting me, freaking out, she said. Thinks you're bluffing. I laughed, sharp, bold. Let her think that. As I hung up, staring at the Mustang's gleaming hood, I felt it. Power. Mia thought she was driving this. But when I locked the garage, evidence safe, I knew the wheel was mine now. Mia was jittery the next day, eyes darting, hands restless. She kept glancing at me, waiting for me to call her out. I didn't. I brewed coffee, whistled, acted like nothing was up. She hated it. Her control was slipping, and I could taste it. My confidence wasn't just growing now, it was roaring. I'd spent months doubting myself. But those photos, those texts, they were my torque wrench, tightening every loose doubt into something unbreakable. She wasn't the prize anymore. I was. I upped the game. Left a receipt for my last dinner with Lauren on the table, dated, time-stamped, a little L doodled on it. Mia snatched it up at lunch. You're still seeing her? She hissed. I leaned back, sipping my coffee. You're still seeing gray hoodie. Her mouth opened, then shut. She didn't deny it, just glared, cheeks red. This isn't what I wanted, she said, voice shaking. I set the mug down slow. You want it open. I'm open. She slammed her fork down and left the room. Checkmate. But she didn't quit. Therefore, she tried rewriting the rules. Texted me later, all soft. Can we talk? I miss us. I read it, smirked, didn't reply. Lauren met me that night at Rusty's again. She's losing it, she said, sliding me a beer. Keeps calling me, begging me to stop. I clink her glass. Too late. We laughed, and it hit me. I wasn't faking this anymore. I liked Lauren, really liked her, and Mia's mess had handed her to me. Context. Mia's jealousy was her own trap. Conflict. I was stepping right over it. Driving home, I saw Mia's car in the driveway. Lights on. She was waiting. I knew it. I walked in, and there she was, puffy eyes, arms crossed. Evan, please, she started, voice small. Let's end this. No more Lauren. No more anything. I looked at her, really looked, and saw the cracks. She wasn't begging for me. She was begging for control. I tilted my head, calm as ever. You sure about that? Her eyes narrowed, sensing something. And as I turned away, dropping my keys loud on the counter, I knew she'd just lit the fuse. Mia's plea hung in the air. Let's end this, but I didn't bite. I stood there, keys clinking in my hand, and watched her squirm. Her eyes were red, voice trembling, but I wasn't the old Evan, crumbling at her tears. I was steel now, forged in her lies. End what? I asked, slow and deliberate. You started this, Mia. You wanted freedom. She flinched, then exploded. This isn't freedom. You're with Lauren, my Lauren, and it's tearing me apart. Her Lauren? After gray hoodie and burner phones? The hypocrisy was rich, and I drank it in. I stepped closer, voice low. You don't get to rewrite the rules because I'm winning. Her jaw dropped. Then she lunged, grabbing my shirt, yelling, I made a mistake, okay? I'm done with it. Context. She was cracking, desperate to claw back control. Conflict. I wasn't giving it. I pulled away, calm as ice. Too late, I said, and walked to the garage. She screamed after me, curses, sobs, but I locked the door, her voice fading. My toolbox sat there, hiding the evidence, and I felt it, power, pure and steady. The next day, she tried again, left coffee on the counter, wrote, I'm sorry, on a napkin. I tossed it. Lauren texted. She's calling me nonstop, begging me to dump you. I grinned, replying, let her beg. Mia thought she could guilt me back, but I was done fixing her messes. Therefore, I moved the photos, texts, everything to a flash drive, insurance. She came home that night, quiet, watching me like I might snap. I didn't, just ate dinner, casual, while she fidgeted. Evan, she whispered, what's next? I met her eyes, unblinking. You'll see. And as she stared, fear creeping in, I knew she'd handed me the last piece. She wasn't breaking me down. She was breaking herself. Mia went quiet after that, too quiet. She tiptoed around me, all forced smiles and small talk, like she could erase the past week. I let her think it was working. My confidence wasn't just solid now. It was a blade, sharp and ready. I'd spent days uploading her text to a burner email, screenshots labeled by date, initial, lie. J. You my escape. K. Last night was unreal. R. He doesn't suspect, right? Oh, I suspected. And I'd acted. I sent the file, anonymous, to her book club, her gym buddies, her sister. Not all at once. Slow drips, untraceable. The fallout hit fast. Her phone buzzed nonstop. Angry texts, calls she didn't answer. I watched from the garage, tweaking the Mustang, as she paced the living room, muttering. Who did this? She yelled, storming in. I shrugged, wiping grease off my hands. Dunno. Secrets get out. Her eyes narrowed. Suspicion, not proof. Context. She'd built her life on appearances. Conflict. I torched it. You're behind this, she hissed. I smiled, said nothing. She couldn't prove it, and that ate at her more. Her sister called later, voice icy through the speaker. Mia, what's wrong with you? Evan deserves better. Mia slammed the phone down, then turned on me. You're ruining me, she shouted. You wanted honesty, I said cool. Now you've got it. She lunged for my toolbox, guessing, maybe, but I'd moved the flash drive. She found nothing, just collapsed, sobbing. Therefore, I grabbed my jacket. I'm done here, I said and walked out. She screamed after me, threats, please, but I kept going. Lauren waited at Rusty's, in hand. It's out? She asked. I nodded. All of it. And as Mia's world crumbled behind me, I felt the weight lift. She'd begged for openness. I'd given her exposure instead. Mia didn't give up. She followed me the next day, tailgating my truck, texting me, we need to talk. I ignored her, pulled into the shop, and started on a brake job. She stormed in mascara-streaked, begging. Evan, I'll leave them all. Just come home. Home? That word didn't fit anymore. I wiped my hands, looked at her. You burned that bridge, Mia. She grabbed my arm, desperate. I'll fix it. Please. I almost felt sorry, almost. But I'd fixed enough. I've been planning this longer than she knew. Context, 6 months back, I'd opened a separate account, small deposits, cash from side gigs, hidden under shop expenses. Conflict. She'd never noticed, too busy with her freedom. Now it was $5,000, enough to bolt. I leaned in, voice steady. I've got nothing left to give you. Her eyes widened, realizing too late I wasn't bluffing. You can't leave, she said. You need me. I laughed, cold, sure. Not anymore. She tried guilt next. After everything? 7 years. I nodded. Yeah, and you trashed it. Therefore, I laid the trap. You want me back? Prove it. Cut them off, publicly. She froze, mouth twitching. She couldn't. Her ego wouldn't let her. I'll think about it, she stammered, then left. I knew she wouldn't. Lauren met me later, grinning. She's texting everyone, saying you're the bad guy. I smirked. Let her. Because I'd already rented a place, an old garage with an apartment above, perfect for the Mustang. Mia thought she could reel me in. But when I loaded my tools that night, her car pulling up behind me, I saw her face. Panic, not power. She walked right into it. Mia banged on my truck window as I packed the last box. Evan, stop, she yelled, voice raw. I rolled it down, calm. What? She clutched her phone, shaking. I'll end it, all of them. Just stay. Too late. I'd moved the Mustang to the new place that morning, a brick garage off Elm, Lauren helping me unload. I looked at Mia, her hair wild, and felt nothing. No sadness, no guilt. Just done. I'm not staying, I said, starting the engine. She grabbed the door. You can't take her. Lauren's mine. Hers. After everything? I pried her hand off. She's not a trophy, Mia. Neither am I. Her eyes darted, searching for leverage, finding none. Context. She'd lost her grip on me, on her story. Conflict. I was walking away with the one thing she couldn't stand to lose. I drove off, her shouts fading in the rearview. Lauren waited at the new place, scarf bright against the dusk. She okay? She asked. I shrugged. Not my problem. Mia's call started an hour later. Voicemails, texts. I need you. I'll change. I didn't answer. Her friends had ditched her, her lies public. Then the final blow landed. Lauren showed me a text Mia hadn't meant to send her. Evan's brother says hi. It read, time-stamped last month. My brother, Derek, estranged since Dad's funeral. Mia had gone there, thinking I'd never know. I stared, then laughed, hard, free. Therefore, I forwarded it to the group chat leak. Last nail. Her phone went silent after that. Lauren squeezed my hand. You good? I nodded. Better. And as we unpacked, the Mustang gleaming below, I knew I'd won. It's been a month. I'm in a new place, grease on my hands, Lauren humming nearby, the Mustang purring like it's alive. Mia's gone quiet. No calls, no texts. Word is she's moved back to her mom's, reputation in shreds. I don't check. I don't need to. That Evan, the one who'd slump at her tears, who'd fix her chaos, he's gone too. I'm not sad about it. I'm stronger, colder, and, I'll admit it, happier. Looking back, it's wild. She begged for an open marriage, thinking I'd just sit there, taking it. But I played her game, beat her at it. Lauren's not a rebound. She's real, solid, and she gets me. We laugh about it sometimes, how Mia handed me the win without knowing. Context. I've been the fixer, piecing her world together. Conflict. She broke it, and I stopped picking up the pieces. Now I build what I want. Cars, life, us. Derek called last week. Awkward, mumbling about Mia. She's a mess, he said. You okay? I told him yeah, hung up. No grudge. He's just another loose wire I don't need. The Mustang's done now. Cherry red, roaring, and every time I drive it, I feel it. I'm not the guy who waits anymore. Mia wanted freedom. I gave her chaos. Me? I got peace. Thank you for tuning into my story. We appreciate every single one of you. We'd love to know what part of the world you're watching from right now. Let us know in the comments.